Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing well. Today's target is to solve question number 3, and the chapter which we are related with is absorption and margin costing. And we have already solved 2 questions and introductory lecture has been completed. And you can find these lectures in the same playlist present over here. Okay, question number 3 basically is having for 3 different periods. Here we have period 1, 2 and 3, and we need to calculate marginal costing and absorption costing income statement for all these 3 periods. Now please understand, when you will make income statement according to absorption costing, for period 1 it would be separated to period 2, it would be separated to period 3. It means 3 different income statement according to absorption costing would be made. Similarly, 3 different statements would be made for marginal costing. Little easy for me if I'm using the system, because I will copy previous statements and will use the same headings, but for you, you will have to make 3 different statements each and every time. Here when we are starting our question, you can see here 10,000 machines in a month are produced. This is the capacity of this organization, Shaheen Limited. They can produce 10,000 machines in a month. It's a normal production. It is standard production, you can imagine. And now for this, cost is for 10,000 machines. Selling price is also given. Sales 1 to 3 and production 1 to 3 is given. Production can be increased 11,000 units without corresponding increase in fixed cost. That means fixed will remain fixed. It doesn't matter you are producing 10,000, 8,000 or 11,000. Your cost would be fixed. We will be completing our income statement according to absorption costing first. So what we will do, we will make income statement for first period, and here we will perform the function. Now here income statement according to absorption costing will be made over here. How we will start? The first element would be sales. For that we need to have our units, and then per unit amount would be mentioned over here in inner column, and final amount would be mentioned over here. Then we need to have cost of sales, and this cost will include both VC and FC. This cost of sale would start with opening stock, and then you will add production cost, you will subtract closing stock, and after that what you will do, you will see if there is any under applied or over applied, and you will see over here. This way, after this you can calculate total cost, which would be put over here, and finally we can calculate our gross profit, within which you will be calculating your operating costs. This operating cost might be having selling, admin and marketing expenses. So this formula will be used to calculate your income statement for first period, and same we will take for the second and third periods. Now come to the point. Under absorption costing, we need to have a per unit cost which includes fixed cost, and you can see there is little ease for us. Fixed overhead is already present in total cost, total per unit cost, so matter is little easy for us. Now for first period, sold units are 8,000, so you will go over here, sold units 8,000. Since it's first period, and at when you are starting your production, there will not be any opening stock, as we know, so we are putting it 0. Produced unit, you can see produced units are 10,000, so you can put over here, and then we will see if there is any closing stock. Over here 1800 total cost is mentioned, so you can put 1800 total per unit cost would be put over here. This is total per unit cost including fixed cost. In previous question what we were doing to calculate total per unit cost, what did we do? We were adding per unit fixed cost in per unit variable cost, but now it's automatically given over here. Above there are three statements which are variable cost and 600 is fixed cost, and they have added all fixed and variable cost, and we have got 1800 as total per unit cost, and this has been mentioned over here. Now we will see what else. Selling price of the machine is 2400, so you can put 2400 over here. All right, next is production can be increased. Okay, 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 and the question is ended. Surprisingly, there is no selling admin or marketing expenses, so everything is 0, can be put over it, but I'm requesting you to write it so that you cannot forget that selling admin and marketing as operating cost is the part of this statement. Now we can see if there is any closing stock. You have produced 10,000 units, and out of these 10,000 you can only be able to sell 8,000 number of units. It means 2,000 units are still present in your hand. Cost which is used for production would be same for closing stock as well. Everything is completed as opening stock is not present, so our production cost is completed. Sale unit per unit is completed, so now we can calculate amounts. Whenever you want to calculate amount, you need units, and per unit of sales 8,000, and you need to multiply it with per unit 2400. So we have got our sales. Then at inner column we will be calculating opening stock, which is 0, and then production cost. How you will calculate? Units are being multiplied by per unit. So unit of production 10,000, and you need to multiply per unit 1800. So production cost is here, and then you will calculate closing stock. How? Units of closing stock 2000, and then multiply it with per unit cost, which is 1800. So in this way closing stock has also been calculated. It's time to see if there is any over or under production. For that we needed standard production, and standard production is given over here. In a month, capacity of this organization is to produce 10,000 units. That means this company or this manufacturing concern can produce 10,000 units, and how many units we have produced in this month is 10,000. So it means there is no under over applied. We have produced number of units according to our capacity. How did you concluded it? The capacity or the standard of production of this organization was 10,000, and in actual they have produced 10,000 units as well, so there is no variance. All right, so it has been finalized. Operating cost is finalized, under over applied is finalized, production cost is finalized. We are now open to calculate our cost, and that cost would be calculated over here. For that, first of all we will go to the opening stock, which is 0, and then we will add production cost, which is 18 million, and then you will subtract your closing stock 36 lakh, and then you were needed to see if there is any under over applied, and since there is no amount present over here, so finally this is our total cost of sales which was required to be calculated. At this stage we can calculate our gross profit, which is difference between cost of goods sold and sales. Sale amount of sale is 1920, and you need to subtract your cost of sale, which is 1440, and this way we have calculated our gross profit. And since no operating cost is present, so we can calculate our net profit as well after that. So same as there is no selling admin cost, so you were needed to subtract selling cost from gross profit. Here was your gross profit, cost is nil, so you have got your net profit over here, and you can mention it. Net profit is been calculated. Okay, now our answer is 48 lakh. Okay, and here is 4800, and it has been mentioned 4800,000. So here you can see your answer 4800,000. So three zeros are skipped just for the length. Our answer has been matched. First answer is 4800. Now what I will do, I was mentioning it, I will take these headings and will use to make for second statement. It's not needed, you can delete it. And what I was saying, I will pick everything from here and will use it to make income statement for second period. This is for second period, and what we have done over here was for first period. And the only thing which I do not need is calculation, so I will remove these calculation over here. So it was little easy for me, but you will have to make everything again and again. For three parts, three statements you will make, and I can tell you another method with which you will write only statements. But right now we are focusing upon second part. Okay, come over here. For second period, 8000 is unit produced. So you will write 8000 over here, and units sold are 9000. So you will put 9000 over here, and please look at here. This is first part. We are highlighting it. This was your first part, and in first part what you have done, your closing stock was 2000 number of units. So please pay attention here. Whatever is closing stock of previous period, since these are periods, not alada, not different companies, these are actually time periods. So what you will do, the closing stock of previous production time would be the opening stock of next production time. These units were you were not able to sell, so these were present in your closing stock. Closing stock of previous month would be considered as opening stock of next month. So it's little easy for me for you to put over here 2000 would be considered as your opening stock. What you have done, closing stock of previous month would be considered opening stock of the current one. All right, now decide if there is any closing stock. 2000 from previous month at the start of the month, and you have produced 8000 units. Total 10,000 unit you have produced, out of which you could sell only 9000 units. It means out of 10,000, 9000 units are sold, 1000 units are still in your hand. Go back and see, here is your sale price 2400. You can put 2400 over here, and we need to see our per unit cost, which is 1800. When we are following absorption costing, what do we need? We need to have a per unit cost which includes variable and fixed cost. It has already been added as it was mentioned in first part. So per unit cost is 1800, and kindly note same per unit cost would be used for closing stock and production. Now let's see if there is any under applied or over applied. Under or over applied is directly associated with fixed cost only. Clear? Now see if they have produced less than their standard production or more than their standard production. Our standard production was 10,000. In second period, we have produced only 8,000 number of units. Again, look at here. This was your standard 10,000, but we have produced in second time period, it was only 8,000. It means 2,000 units were not produced. Under production, it is under applied 2000, and since I have mentioned you only fixed cost would be associated with under over applied. Here per unit cost of fixed cost will be mentioned. Fixed overhead is 600, so you will mention 600. Since you are doing it for the first time, please pay your attention. 10,000 number of units this manufacturing concern can produce, but they have produced only 8,000. It means it is under production. For mentioning under production, how much? 10,000 standard, 8,000 they are produced in actual, 2,000 under production. And since I have mentioned you under or over applied production is only associated with fixed cost, so we have mentioned per unit of fixed cost. Since it is under applied, so we are going to add. I was actually trying to highlight this add, but it is not being okay. It's all right. Since it is under applied, we will add it. Keep it in your mind. Now we are open to calculate our amounts. First amount is for sales. Units would be multiplied by per unit. Units are 9,000 and we need to multiply per unit 2,400. Sale we have calculated. At inner column we will calculate opening stock units multiply by per unit. We have got our opening stock, then units of production multiplied by per unit of production. We have got our cost, and then finally cost of closing stock units 1000 multiplied by per unit 1800. In this way we have got our closing stock, and then under applied units are 2000 multiply per unit 600. All costs have been calculated. Total cost we are open to mention. For this you will follow these signs, add, less, and since it was under applied, so you will add. I was willing to write it exact what is needed, and here we are going to change add under applied. Why I was writing it? Because you will be clarified why we are adding something or why we are subtracting. As it was earlier mentioned, when it is under applied, you will add. Okay, let's start our calculation for cost. First is opening stock, and then you need to add production cost, and then you need to subtract closing stock, and then you need to add under applied. So please check it out. We have added production cost in opening stock, closing stock is being subtracted, under applied is being added. So in this way we have got our total cost. After calculation of total cost, we are open to calculate gross profit, which is difference between cost of sale and sales. Amount of sale is 2160. Okay, so 21 million 6 lakh. 21 million 6 lakh is the amount, and then you will subtract your cost, which is 1740. So we have got our gross profit, and you can see that in this question there is no selling, admin or marketing. Total operating cost would also be 0. And how would you calculate your net profit? By subtracting operating cost from gross profit. Operating was 0, so same profit would be your net profit. And here you can see your second answer of absorption costing is 4200. In this way, we have calculated second part. Since it has been done, so we can mark it as completed part. Again, for the third time period, I will hire these headings and will use them to make income statement for third time period. And what I will do, these amounts are unnecessary, so I will erase them and will use amount related to third period. Okay, let's go. Alright guys, for third time period, our performer is ready and we are not going to put their relevant factors over here. So we will follow the third period now. For third period, our production is 11,000. So you will write number of unit 11,000 over here. And then you can see sales units are 12,000. So 12,000 would be put in front of sales. For opening stock, here you are solving part 3. You will go to in part 2, closing stock of previous time period would be opening stock of the new time period. Here, closing stock of second time period would be opening stock of third time period. So 1000 closing stock would be opening stock of the next period. For closing stock units, you will decide by yourself. Now please focus. 1000 were the number of units at starting of the period. You have produced 11,000. Total 12,000 units you have produced, out of which 12,000 you have sold. It means no number of units would be present at your closing stock. So in this way, units completed for production. Now under over applied we will decide. For that we will go to our question and you will see that 10,000 number of units. 10,000 number of unit is your capacity, and in third you have produced 11,000. Please focus. But we are trying to understand 10,000 was your standard and you have produced 11,000 number of units. It means you have overly produced. How many number of units overly produced? 10,000 capacity, produced 11,000. So 1,000 number of units are produced overly. Since it is overproduction, so what we will do, we write is over applied. And as you know, over applieds are subtracted. 1000 units are completed, and we have idea that in this question there is no selling, admin or marketing expenses. Per unit sale price, we will go to the question, and here per unit sale price 2400 is mentioned. You will put 2400 over here, and the cost of sales, in case of absorption costing, we need to have variable and fixed cost both. So total 1800 is your total per unit cost, and same will be used for opening stock as well. And happily we will be putting this per unit cost for production and for closing stock as well. Under over applied, as it was mentioned earlier, it was related with fixed cost only. So what we will do, we will put per unit fixed cost, and you can see per unit fixed cost is clearly mentioned 600. So we will put 600 over here. All units, okay, all per units we have written. Now we are open to calculate our total amount. Amount of sale would be calculated by multiplying units into per unit. Units are 12,000. We need to multiply per unit, which is 2400. Amount of sale is here 2880. At inner column we will calculate opening stock, which is 1000 units, multiply by per unit 1800. Opening stock is okay. Production cost, for that we will multiply units 11,000 with per unit 1800. Our production cost is okay. Now closing stock, no number of unit, that means it would be 0. For fixed cost, number of unit 1000, and we will be multiplying it with 600 per unit cost. It is completed. It's time to calculate our total cost, and we will follow these signs. First thing is to see, okay, first thing we will see opening stock, and then we need to add sign plus what, production, and then we need to subtract closing stock, though it is 0, but we will mention it. And then it was over applied, which would be subtracted, sign minus, and this is your over applied production. Total cost is here. Now we'll find out our gross profit. How would we calculate our gross profit? It is difference between cost of sales and sales. Cost is 2880, and we will subtract our total cost including variable and fixed costs. So we have got our gross profit over here. For third part, you can see your absorption costing. Third part 7800,000. So we have got our 7800,000, as there is no selling admin. Selling admin was 0. And to calculate net margin, you will subtract selling admin from gross profit. Gross profit was 7800 less nothing. So we have got our net margin, which is 7800,000, and answer we have now. Okay guys, in this way our third part is also completed, and we can mark it as it has been done. So in this way, absorption costing, all parts have been completed. In the similar way, we are now up to marginal costing. These three answers are completed: 7800, 4200 and 4800. We will now be following our marginal costing. So what we will do here, we will make a space for marginal costing, and there we will write our income statement according to marginal costing. And how it would start? Again, we need sales, and we will subtract our variable cost only. The difference between marginal costing and absorption costing. First difference has arrived here. Variable and fixed, both costs are written, and over here only variable cost would be written. Okay, and variable cost will start as usual with opening stock. We will add production cost, will subtract closing stock. No under or over applied would be written over here. As we will subtract our variable cost from sales, we will get contribution margin, and then we will subtract our fixed cost, with which we will get net margin. So in this way, our statement according to marginal costing will be completed. I think this space is unnecessary. We can put it directly over here. Okay. Similar way, you will be writing units per unit, and then amount, and then finally main amount would be written over here. First part would be solved. And as in marginal costing, there were 3 periods. So for first period, we will start our working, and now let's go. And we will again be focusing upon this period. Production unit 10,000. So here you will put 10,000 number of units. And then you can see is sold unit 8,000. So here you will come and will write 8,000. Okay, opening stock, as we know, it's first time period, and for starting of the any fiscal year, any income year, any accounting year, any month, there will always be 0. There will not be any opening stock. For closing stock, we will think 10,000 units were produced, out of which only 8,000 units you were able to sell. It means 2,000 units are still in your closing stock. The basic thing or basic difference between absorption and margin costing will arrive over here. You need to put per unit cost. And since we only need variable cost, this is your total cost and fixed cost is 600, and here you can calculate it total per unit. Actually it is very easy, directly it can be calculated, but just for you to understand I'm writing over here total per unit cost would be equal to per unit variable cost and add per unit fixed cost. Okay, and next what you can do is to see how much total cost we have. This is 1800, that is your total cost, and you need to put per unit variable cost. Suppose it is unknown, per unit variable cost, and then you need to add per unit fixed cost, which is 600. Okay, now we want to calculate further. 600 is being added over here, you want to take it to the left side. 1800 is already present on left side, and when you will take this 600 which is added over here, if it will go to the opposite side, it would be subtracted 600, and what would left on right side? Per unit variable cost. 1800 minus 600, it means 1200 would be considered as per unit variable cost. Now I will tell you how directly it was very easy to calculate. This was your total cost 1800, and in this 600 was fixed. When you will subtract, everything would be variable, and we have calculated over here. Now you will keep it in mind, variable cost is 1200 per unit. Why we have calculated it? Look at here, in marginal costing we need to put only variable cost, while in absorption costing we were having both variable and fixed cost. That is why you have written 1800. 1800 was the cost where both fixed and variable was added, but in marginal costing we need to put variable cost only, and that we have calculated is 1200. So 1200 would be put here, and same 1200 would be used for production and closing stock. Now go up and see sale price is 2400, put over here. In this way, everything related to sale and variable cost has been completed. Now for fixed cost, what you will do? Please note it down, fixed cost will remain fixed if you are producing 10,000 unit, 8,000 or 11,000. It has been mentioned over here, production can be increased from 11,000 units up till 11,000 without corresponding increase in fixed overhead. You have already in your mind that fixed means fixed. No matter if you are producing 10,000 or 8,000 or 11,000, it would be fixed. If for 10,000 number of unit fixed cost was 600, so same will be used over here. For 10,000 number of unit, cost is 600, total fixed cost, how we will calculate? Number of unit multiplied by per unit. So it means this is your fixed cost, and it will remain same for more than 10,000 or less than 10,000. We will always be writing same fixed cost over here. All units okay, all per units okay. We are now be able to calculate our amount of sales would be calculated by multiplying units into per unit, which is 2400. Sale amount is calculated, we will go to the inner column. Since opening stock is 0, so total amount would also be 0. Production cost 10,000 number of units, and it would be multiplied by 1200. In this way total production cost would be 1200,000, and then closing stock number of unit 2000, and it would be multiplied by 1200 per unit cost. Closing stock has also been calculated. So what we will do, we can now calculate our total variable cost. How? You will follow these signs. First opening stock, and then we need to add production cost, which is 1200, and after which we need to subtract closing stock, which is 2400,000. So in this way we have calculated our total variable cost, after which we can calculate our contribution margin, which is actually the difference between variable cost and sales. Amount of sales 1920, and you need to subtract variable cost 9600. This way your contribution margin has been calculated, and you do know that your fixed cost is same 6 million. Here we are now able to calculate our net margin, which is difference between fixed cost and contribution margin. There contribution margin 9600, you will subtract fixed cost 6000, and this way your net margin for marginal costing first part. Here you can see marginal costing first part 3600,000, and 3600,000 is here. In this way our first part has been completed. Now we are very open to calculate our marginal costing income statement for second part. For that, it is easy for me. What I will do, I will hire these headings and will use the same headings for making of second part income statement. Since these values were used to calculate net margin for first part, now they are unneeded, we have erased them. Again we will be focusing upon second part, second period, and what we will do, production is 8000 for second part. Here 8000 number of units would be mentioned. Go up and see for second part 9000 units are sold. So you will write 9000 over here. And again for opening stock, what you will do, you will see first part. Closing stock of first part would be opening stock of second part. So closing stock 2000 and opening stock of next period would also be 2000. So whatever is closing stock for the previous month would be opening stock of the next month. And now we will decide if there is any closing stock. See, 2000 were opening stock and 8000 additional production. Total units you were having 10,000, out of which you were able to sell only 9000. Out of 10,000, 9,000 units you have sold. So how many number of units are still in hand? That is 1000. Okay, for sale price, we will go to the question, and you can see sale price is mentioned 2400. So you will write 2400 over here. And for per unit cost, this is per unit variable cost only. And in question, here you have seen, you have calculated per unit variable cost, which is 1200. And how did we calculate it? Total per unit cost was 1800, out of which 600 were fixed, and remaining 1200 would be variable cost. So here you have calculated your variable cost as well, 1200, and same will be used over here. 1200 variable cost for opening stock, and happily we will use this 1200 for production and closing stock as well. Fixed cost will remain the fixed and same. As we know, for 10,000 number of units, 600 per unit was cost, and fixed cost would be calculated units 10,000 multiplied by per unit 600. It would remain same. The thing which is being discussed, this was your part 1, and you have taken fixed cost 6 lakh. and this is your part 2, and again 6000 is your fixed cost. So fixed cost will remain fixed. Here you can observe units are completed, per units are completed. We are now open to calculate our total amounts. Okay, for amount of sales we will go units and will multiply with per unit 2400. Amount of sale is calculated 2160. We will come to the inner column and will calculate opening stock number of unit 2000 and will multiply per unit 1200. And next is production cost number of unit 8000 and it would be multiplied by per unit 1200. Now closing stock number of unit 1000 and will be multiplied by per unit 1200. All amounts are calculated. We are now open to calculate total variable cost and we will follow these signs. Very first thing is opening stock 2400 and you need to add your production cost which is 9600, and then you will subtract your closing stock which is 1200. In this way your total variable cost has arrived. It's time to calculate our contribution margin. How would we calculate contribution margin? It is difference between variable cost and sales. Amount of sale 2160 and you will subtract your total cost 1080. So in this way 1080 is your contribution margin. And next, fixed cost will remain fixed 6000. Now we can calculate our contribution or net margin, which is difference between fixed cost and contribution margin. Your contribution margin 1080 and you will subtract fixed cost which is 6000. This way you have calculated your net margin for second part according to marginal costing. Go above. Marginal costing, second part 4800,000 and this is your second part and 4800,000. In this way, income statement according to marginal costing for second period is completed, and what we will do, we will use these statements to make our third period statement of marginal costing. We are going to start third, and naturally these amounts were used for calculation of second part. Now they are not needed, we will remove it. Now you will decide how you will design this question. I am just hiring headings from the previous part and you will have to either make it again and again and again, or if you have any other option you can share. Okay, for third part we will go to the question. This is your third part. Unit produced are 11,000. So we will be here 11,000 units produced. Now we will see how many units sold. In third part, units sold are 12,000. So here 12,000 units sold. Opening stock as usual we will go to, here it is third part, we will go to the second part. Closing stock of second part would be opening stock of third part. So closing stock 1000, it would be opening stock for third period of time. Closing stock we will be calculating according to our conclusion. See, 1000 units were at starting of the period, 11,000 number of units produced in current month. Total units we were having 12,000 and we have sold 12,000 as well. So out of 12,000, 12,000 units are sold. How many number of units would be present in hand? Nothing. So zero closing stock. 12,000 produced and all 12,000 units sold. Nothing was present in hand. So closing stock 0. Fixed cost as usual. For 10,000 it was 600 per unit. So it will remain same, number of unit 10,000 multiplied by per unit 600. So we have got our fixed cost. Unit side is completed. Now we will see per unit sales, for which we will go to the question. 2400 sale price per unit. put it over here. For opening stock, we need variable cost. And as you know, we have calculated variable cost in this way. This is third time we are using variable cost. Out of this total 1800, 600 was fixed, remaining 1200 was variable cost. So you will put 1200 variable cost over here. And this variable cost would be used in similar way for production and closing stock. Units completed, per unit completed, we are now open to calculate amounts. For amount of sales, we will go to outer column where we will calculate sales by multiplying units 12,000 into per unit 2400. Amount of sale has been calculated. Now we will migrate to inner column where we will calculate opening stock units 1000 and it would be multiplied by per unit 1200. Opening stock is here. Production cost unit 11,000 and it would be multiplied by 1200 per unit cost. So we have production cost, finally closing stock, which is 0. So you won't be putting anything over here. Costs are completed. It's time to calculate total variable cost. How? We will follow these signs behind every element. Opening stock, and then we will add. Look over here, we can add production cost 132,000, then we will subtract closing stock, which is actually 0. So we have our total variable cost, which is over here. Okay, now we can calculate our contribution margin, which is difference between variable cost, this is, and sales. So amount of sale is 2880. You need to subtract your closing stock 1440. So we have got our contribution margin. After contribution margin calculation, we can calculate our net margin, for which we need fixed cost, which is 6000. Net margin is difference between fixed cost and contribution margin. Your contribution margin was 1440. You will subtract fixed cost, which is 6000. So we have got 8400,000 for net margin. Come to the question and you can see marginal costing. Third answer is 8400 and this is 8400 as well. In this way, we have completed our marginal costing as well. You can see 3600 was your first answer. This second answer 4800. You can see over here. And your third answer is 8400. The third answer 8400. All answers are completed. So thankfully, without any editing, without any interruption, all 6 answers are completed. In this way, our question number 3 is completed. All 6 answers are matched. It was really interesting and enjoyable time, and hopefully you people have enjoyed as well. Time for question number 3 has been ended. But if you have any query, any of your questions regarding this problem, you are very open to ask, you are very open to text, message, or whatever the way you want to contact, you can ask your queries. I will surely be trying to instantly answer them. Time for question number 3 is completed. Hopefully we will be meeting again for the solution of question number 4 in absorption and margin costing chapter. Up till then, please take care of yourself, and I am requesting you to please pray for me as well. It's time to say goodbye. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.